Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, or good morning, or afternoon, depending on when you're listening to this. Welcome to the 56th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash nerd podcast where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer any questions that you might have. Speaking of which, as we like to do at the top of all of our episodes, remind everybody of the email, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice, so any questions, complaints, criticisms, critiques, send all of those to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you'd like to get some merchandise, you can do so at manshorts.com. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Hope that everybody is doing well on this Friday. Hello, everyone. So, it's cold out there, huh? Not so much here in Florida, but hope that everybody is staying safe. I know that it's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks for storms and cold. I know that the Chiefs-Dolphins game, or rather the Bills game tomorrow, is supposed to be like negative 15 degrees or something. I had a meeting with my agent this afternoon who is in Canada, who says that they're under a polar vortex. So just hoping everybody is safe out there. All right. So at the top of the show, we also like to issue out a thank you to all of our patrons, members, any super chatters. All of that stuff helps, even more so lately. So if you're in the mood of helping either of those methods, please consider it. Please like the video, comment, subscribe, share, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms. In Vancouver, Ruby. So on the west side. Okay, so for Art Corner this week, I would like to talk about a couple of things. So one thing, and I can, I guess, show you in two different ways. So my cousin sent me this for Christmas, and it's just one of the coolest things ever. So I separated it on an actual image so that you can look at it. And then I also have the actual version of it right here. But it's just so cool. It's one of the coolest gifts I've ever gotten. It's very thoughtful. She's very talented, and she always does really cool artistic stuff. So just wanted to show that off. That's my cousin Maggie's work. She does a lot of really cool stuff in general, and she always gives really thoughtful gifts. So in the vein of us talking about thoughtful gifts in the last couple of episodes and us having the holidays, I just thought I'd share that to everybody because it's really cool. I think it's neat. And another thing in Art Corner, before we start getting into questions, is just a note for everybody to check out Napoleon if they get a chance. I started watching it with my wife earlier, and I ended up falling asleep because so tired, always working. But it's really good. I think it's well made, so I think it would definitely be worth checking out. So check out Napoleon. Okay, so let's get into it. We've got some questions today. We have 7 questions this evening, so hopefully we can get through them all and then have a little chat. But let's get it started. This week, I don't have a list of names, but I think we'll be okay. The first question is from Brian. So, Brian asks, I've been watching your various YouTube videos for a while now. In the live streams, there have been mentions of a Discord server. I was curious to know if this is a private server or if there was a way to join. Thank you for the question, Brian. So, it's not a private server in the strictest sense. I have, in fact, placed a link for it in the description of this video. And if Pirate or anyone else in the Discord would like to post one in the chat to make it easier for anybody that wants to hop in, feel free. I will say that I'm probably not in there as much as I would like to be, but I dabble. I'm usually there, after each of the episodes, and then you just, throughout the week, just kind of pop in there and see fun stuff, memes, and just chatting about D&D and Baldur's Gate 3 and all kinds of stuff. So, how do we know if there's going to be one from Chris? Well, we know that because we're having an episode, Pirate. In fact, I think 2 of them are from Chris tonight. So, Well, that was a really easy one to start off with. Just wanted to get that out of the way as to the Discord server. Yeah, I don't know if we could make something else from it beyond just kind of a hang. I will say that I've spoken before on the show about doing a character supplement book, which I am still kind of in the process of developing along with 100 other things. But that said, that I did create, I think, a channel on the server for characters. So if you're interested in contributing to that as far as my character supplement book, then please feel free to send stuff there. Or you could just come into the Discord and chill out and hang, because it's kind of a cool chill hang. All right. So that was a really easy, simple question to get out of the way. The next one, not so much. We'll probably be talking about for a little bit, because I'm interested to hear what chat's thoughts are on this too. But the next question is from Amanda, which not the typical Amanda that we've received questions from, and not even the other one. Amanda's becoming Chris on this show. So let's go. Amanda asks, "Hey Charles, my wife and I are big fans of pretty much everything Man Shorts does. Thank you. Our party has recently approached an impasse that centers around an ancient artifact we found a few sessions back." Oh, man. "Both the barbarian and paladin think we should destroy it, while the wizard and fighter think we should try and study it. The rogue wants to sell it. Of course, it's rogue. I'm a druid and was opposed to taking it in the first place. Another note, it does psychic damage to anyone who touches it, even through armor. Beyond that, we don't know much about it. At this point, I'm prepared to leave behind or perhaps hide it until we can learn more about it. It seems as if it might be dangerous. Any advice? Thanks in advance for any advice or guidance. Also, I can't watch live, so say hi to chat for me." Well, Amanda says hi, chat. Just thought I'd relay the message in case you missed it. Thank you for the question. So, let's talk artifact stuff. So I think that we all know that if I were involved in this in any way, I would most certainly be my character might already be dead from just messing with it too much. So, artifact stuff. Well, this is the notes that I have, and then we'll let chat put their opinions into it as to what do you think chat, what do you think they do? I said that I think that it's important that you separate the meta between the player and the character in regard to motivation and incentive. So I think the easiest way to approach this is to have an open discussion, starting with everyone's willingness to change their mind, right? Because like I doubt that the rogue is gonna want to do anything but sell it, but the fighter and wizard who want to study it could potentially be convinced to destroy it, and or the paladin and barbarian who want to destroy it could be convinced to study it. Some of the stuff in chat I'm seeing, dump it in Mordor. What's the worst that could happen? Depends on how sadistic the DM is. Is it meant to teach a lesson, cause pain and suffering? That's true. And I mean, that's another meta question, right? Because you can't very well come right out and ask the DM, like, well, what is it? Because that's the bit. That's part of the deal. Build a temple around it. That's true. That's like a long-term campaign strategy. Keep it and study it. Otherwise, the BBEG will absolutely get a hold of it and smack people with it. Yeah, that's what I put too on the end of my notes. I said, hiding it until you know more about it is an interesting thought, but it's really risky. And selling it seems pretty foolish. So, I mean, based on that, I guess we're down to either keeping it or destroying it. And if it hurts you just from holding it, I mean, it's probably going to kill you if you try to destroy it. Have someone else study it on your behalf. Yeah, that's a really great answer, too. If you just make it a third-party thing where it's just like, of course, then it would have to be somebody that you trust, or at a minimum, it would need to be somebody that was, like, doing it in a business sense, like doing it as an official act of business that you're paying for. If you're going to study it, put a barrier around it. Yeah, I was thinking that, too. Like with, I mean, what do you do? Maybe you put it in a bag of holding and just carry it around like that, so that you know that it's just in there. If you want to keep it, you need to build around it and protect it. Yeah. You just chuck it in a bag of holding, or you could just like build a box around it. But I think more before you do any of that, you have to have a conversation and come to a consensus as the group. And I also, like, when I say finding everyone's willingness to change their mind, it's also like, maybe it's because I've been watching this new weird reality show, The Trust. But it's like, you have to kind of think of it from a perspective of like, okay, like you as the druid, if you want to just leave it, who is more likely for you to get on your team? Probably not the rogue, because they just see it as profit. But the people that want to destroy it, you might be able to get onto the let's just leave it team. So I think it's a matter of finding what everybody's willing to actually do, because you might find out that the paladin and the barbarian are not much of a conversation away from just being like, okay, well, as long as you guys keep it away from us and we're still safe and we're not taking damage, then you could just keep it and study it, I guess. Toss it through a dimension door. Artifacts aren't also usually destructible unless you specifically know how to do it for that particular artifact. So studying is likely the only choice. Yeah, I'd say studying it and or leaving it. What could your enemies do with it if you left it? Yeah, for sure. Like, that's the big risk in trying to hide it or leave it somewhere, is that it's like, well, what if your enemies get a hold of it and then use it for evil and use it to do bad? OOC-wise, it may be a matter of player buy-in to the story and the GM expects you to keep it. True Rogue, make a forgery to sell and keep the real one for yourself. Yes. So, I think that hire a sage. Oh, a sage. Yeah. That's, I mean, even if just like you go into a city, you could very likely seek out like a magic store. Is that what they're called these days? A magic shop? Some sort of like artifact store. You could probably find in a major city and then just drop it off with them and ask them what it is. But I don't think that you try to destroy it. I don't think that you sell it. And I don't think that you leave it behind. So I guess I'm siding with the barbarian or rather the fighter and the wizard and keeping it to study it. Store called Magic the Gathering and Waterdeep. Rogues being team players, that'll be the day. Yeah, for sure. Forget the rogue. The rogue's going to be outnumbered anyway, because like if they're the only one that's doing that, they're probably just doing it for the bid anyway. Walmart, the Wizard Store of Wonders. Oh man, I was at Walmart today. It was chaos, as it typically is. But what are you gonna do? Ye old wizard shop. Alrighty. So, thank you for the question, Amanda. Hopefully that answers it for you. I think you just got to talk about it, but I think that ultimately you're going to probably end up on let's keep it and study it, or at least hand it off and study it. So that at a minimum you know what it is. And then, hey, maybe you find out like it's a bomb, and it's like, well, good thing we figured that out and didn't keep it. So, next question this week, according to the questions, is from a Chris. Oh man, and I didn't really think about this at all, so I'm going to be going like totally off the seat of my pants. So let's see how we do. This one's from Chris. Chris asks, I'm not sure if it has been asked before. There's supposed to be an asked in there. But classic genie scenario. What are your 3 wishes? Oh man, this is really difficult. So you got to be tricky with it, right? Because are there rules? Is the Chris that asked this here? What are the rules? Can I ask for more wishes? I don't know if I would do that anyway. You know, that's always a thing. Like, oh, well, you just asked for more wishes. And it's like, what? So there's more stress? So I have to decide more things? No, thanks. 3's enough. And assuming that I have, like, they have to be well written out. What? Can't ask for more wishes. Oh, okay. So, I like I said, I don't think I would do that anyway because it would just give me more options. So, let's see. 3 wishes. And they could be anything. How about, let's see. I don't know. This is really difficult. This is the thing that I should have answered before the episode. And I guess it was one that I forgot to write down or address. So, classic Aladdin rules: no murder, no love, no bring back from the dead, and then no more wishes. Okay, that's fair. So, in that case, probably rich, right? No, I know. I don't want to be rich. That's not what I want. What I would ask for is enough money to pay off all of the debts of my own and my loved ones and allow them to live in comfort moving forward. So that's probably number one, right? Is to just take care of everybody. And then I might, if I'm asking a genie and they can do whatever I want, then I would ask for a better system than money, because I just think that it doesn't work very well when you have a placeholder of something that's nothing. So I guess if I made that my first question, my first wish, I wouldn't have to worry about my first wish. Does that make sense? So maybe that should be my first question, is to get rid of money. And then I might not even need wishes. Man, I might only need one wish. Genie gives you stolen mob money and the syndicate comes after you to get it back. Well, hey, that's fine. I mean, look, if I've got enough money to hire a team to keep them away from me. A bank account that always has the exact amount of money that I need in that moment. I do like that. That's a good one. I wish that anything I write in this book will come true. I don't know about that. A book with endless pages. Whoa, okay, I see. This is like an infinite death-proof scenario. Debts paid, then fills your life with pillows for comfort. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really need much, I don't think. I'm pretty satisfied in general in my life. I think that, like, I have everything that I need and most of what I want, which is kind of the goal, I think. So, other than like paying off debts, I don't know. I might travel. I mean, I guess if I could do like supernatural stuff like travel time, it'd be kind of neat. But I don't know. I'm a pretty easy guy. I'd probably just like ask to pay all my bills and then like some cookies. That'd be pretty good to go. Not to have money problems anymore. Good health for me and my family members. Cowboys to win the Super Bowl. Wow, yeah, let's hope they don't choke, huh? They listen, they've got a chance. I think that they've got a team. I don't want to go back in time. I mean, I might go just for like the fun, but world peace. I don't know. That might be boring. Lifetime supply. What's a Tim Tam? Debts paid for me, my family, my friends, and enough money that I don't have to work. Also, free next day delivery on literally everything I order. Oh, yeah, that would be really cool. Didn't specify the cookies. Shoot. Sugar cookies. Transformers G.I. Joe crossover for Christmas. That's cool. If you wish for enough money to pay all your bills, you might get but the only way is for you to die and your family to collect the insurance money. Yeah, well, that's assuming that the insurance would pay out. Because, you know, most of them don't. Because that's a business model. Tim Tams are a chocolate cookie. Oh, okay, cool. Is this a British thing or an Australian thing? Sounds like it. Be much more fun to go forward in time than back. Yeah, that's definitely true. But I don't know, would it? We don't know. It might be worse. The future might be worse. If we went like 100 years in the future, it might look like the Matrix on the outside of the Matrix, you know? For a D&D wish spell, I use a scroll written out, the very nuanced details of my wish, then say, I wish this scroll request is filled. Thank you very much, Unknown Valor, for the $5 donation. It means a lot. Much appreciated. Let's see, what is Yggdrasil's wishes? No more money, return the earth back to nature, abundance for everyone. No doubt. And, you know, some of those could... Oh, bringing back the Firefly series. Yeah, I was recently talking about something else I'd really love to see, and hey, maybe the world of AI will bring us this kind of capability. But I did a TikTok recently because somebody made this video asking if you could have one character have a spinoff show, who would it be? And I was talking about Andy and Ollie from Bob's Burgers because those guys are so funny, those kids. And their moments are always very like short, but whenever I see them, I'm so hype. I get so excited when I see Ollie and Andy. So I would like a 10-season show about Andy and Ollie discovering some sort of an artifact or like mode of transportation that allows them to travel space-time, and so they do. And that's it. And that's the show. We just watch them go through like time and space. Like it's like Doctor Who meets Andy and Ollie. You wish to win the Mega Millions every time it hits 500 million. Well, see, the trouble with winning big money like that is that your name goes in the paper. As opposed to like just having your debts paid. See, that's what I mean. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to raise any flags. I just kind of want to quietly succeed. That's always been my goal. So if I'm talking to a genie and money's not an option, it's not like, for me, it's not, I want 500 million. For me, it's like, just pay all my stuff. Just tell me that I don't have any debt, and then maybe a little extra in the bank, and then it'll be good. Oh, for dogs to live longer. Man, that's tough. Dogs are better than people in my experience. So possession of a ring of genie finding. Oh, that's cool. That's kind of like that's a loophole for the no more wishes, right? It would be like a lamp finding ring. Wish YouTube notifications were. Yeah, what's going on with that? Are you guys' notifications not working? I saw River say something about that earlier. I had a little bit of a weird thing happening with my OBS before I started tonight. I don't know what that was about. It's like one of my folders got deleted somehow. I don't even know how that happened, but he had more money than roll around in a swimming pool of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck. Episode of The King of the Hill when Bobby starts earning money and just wants to go back to Hank paying for his stuff and not worry about money. Yeah, you really don't appreciate the freedom that you have as a kid to not worry about it at all. And I guess you don't realize that you don't appreciate that until later, which is a fun, cruel joke that life plays, kind of like how it goes faster as it goes on. But what are you going to do? Just got to try and focus on the good and stay positive. And like I said, I have everything that I need and most of what I want, so I'm pretty satisfied. Wish to be able to go back in time and buy Bitcoin at $7 a coin. Yeah, no doubt, or maybe even less, right? When it was like 10 cents a coin and everybody was like, this will never be. Man, I really wish, like obviously that's a thing where it's like, man, wish I would have done that. But it's it's extra annoying for me because I'm totally the guy that would do that when people were like, that's not going to be anything. Like when you were a kid and people were like, the internet, well, that'll pass. You can't beat conversation. And then now we're here. So it's like, that kind of happened with Bitcoin too, where people were like, Bitcoin, that isn't worth anything. And granted, the last year or so has not been kind to crypto, but, mostly just a bunch of rich people losing money, so. Malay, what kind of genie? Afridi. I think we need a GoFundMe to get Chaz to do a live review of the Tim Tam Slam trick. What's a Tim Tam Slam trick? And, yeah, I don't know why that's popping up, because I told it not to. I'm constantly at war, I think, with YouTube in terms of like how to do things. Because now whenever I start my stream, it's like, hey, so how do you want to do this? You want to automatically run ads, or do you want to manually do it? And I always select manually because I'm not going to do it. And then it just does it automatically anyway. So like, what's the point even, I guess? So, thank you for the question, Chris, about the genie wishes. I didn't have much of a great answer, but, I stick by that. I feel like the conversation that I would have with the genie would be similar to the one that I just had about it. So, moving on. Next question that we have this evening is from Farah. And Farah asks, hello, DM. First time question. Can you suggest some simple ways to incorporate humor into a D&D campaign? Thanks for the videos and have a great new year. Well, thank you for the question. This might be tough to answer. I'm not all that funny. Okay, so into a D&D campaign. Well, what do you think? Puns is the first thing I see. It's the first thing I was going to say. Puns is a go-to. It's easy and fun. I said funny names. So anytime that you can throw a pun into like the name of an NPC, the name of a bar or a store or a town, weapons, be a bard that tells dad jokes. Yeah, that's fun. I know that my buddy Justin had a character that I've talked about before. I think his name was Cadwallader. And he was a bard who was a stand-up comedian, but he wasn't funny. So all of the jokes that he told were bad, which was funny, right? Inside jokes are always fun. Silly accents can be interesting. Humorous shop names. Comedies born out of fumbles. The town of Lisp. I think a rogue should start some sort of cryptocurrency in Faerun, disrupt the monetary system. So I think this is what I said about funny stuff. In my experience and in my opinion, I think to make something funny, I was just talking to my buddy. Oh, hey, Song's here. I was just talking to Song about this. I think that when it comes to like content in general, but like specifically with humor, you need something old, something new, something borrowed, and something true. So something old being like a thing that we know already everybody loves, like dragons, right? Like everybody loves dragons and thinks dragons are cool, or like dinosaurs or something. So you start there. You have something that you know for sure. Not, obviously you're not going to make every single person happy every time, but for the most part, this is a thing that people like. Something new being something that they may have never heard of, or something that's interesting or unique. Borrowed refers to inspiration. So I would say that you could look to some of your favorite comedic films or comedic television shows or other aired campaigns, like stuff by Critical Role, and then what's the other one is Dimension 20 or ours. There's, I think, plenty of content out there for you to look at as a reference point. And then also I put finally something true, just because it's my belief that like most of the time humor is funny because it's rooted in truth somewhere. And granted, a lot of times it's exaggerated truth, but still I believe that it's rooted in truth. And I think that the more deeply rooted in truth, the funnier it is, the more relatable it is, etc. That's how I feel about like a comic like Carlin. He wasn't always necessarily telling haha jokes so much as that it was just like he was relating feelings or emotions or ideas that were relatable. They were or universal, or something new that you'd never thought of. It's kind of a combination of those things. Something old, something new, something borrowed, something true. Dedicated NPC comedic relief, cowardly cleric or paladin over physically aggressive weaklings. Yeah, that's true. Like a character that's like an oxymoron is always fun. So you could introduce like, I don't know, you see a bard who's just like carrying like a horse through town, like a gnome bard carrying a horse through town. And it's like, whoa, that's insane. And then like you find out that maybe he took a potion of strength or like cast a spell on himself, or maybe he's just that strong. So any kind of those things, I think, that are a little like, I think just think of what you think is funny and try and implement that. Because if you think it's funny, then everybody will think it's, they'll at least appreciate the attempt. Monty Python has many great inspirational moments for a campaign. Oh, yeah, man. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Life of Brian, any of that stuff. Monty Python's hilarious. The Adventure Zone uses humor well. Man, I'm sorry. I've been tired today. It's been a long week. I've been in a mode of working every single day, and And, yeah. Wizard that can only cast a spell when they are drunk or need to use alcohol as a material component. Big absurdity and tiny details. I like that. That's a great way to put it. Big absurdity and tiny details. You know, I bring them up often, but Studebaker Peppercorn is a good example of that. Because Studebaker, he's just like a simple guy. He's just like an old forgetful turtle. But he's big absurd. That guy's crazy. He's like, he starts cobbling shoes in the middle of combat. And it's, you know, big absurdity from simple details. Tiny details. Wizards who are evokers but are afraid of fire. I like to substitute a spot on every table for something funny that may or may not cause physical damage. Well, that's fun. Give inspiration when the party gets you and the table laughing. Pavlov them into wanting to bring the humor themselves. Oh, that's a really good idea. So, wow, you know, that is what our original Forever DM Posey did with the hat. We've talked about that. There's an episode called The Hat. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. I think it's like 15 or 16 or 17 or something. Anyway, the hat was a thing that our first Forever DM Posey would award to us for, could be for anything. Could be for making him laugh really hard. Could be for doing something that he thought was really cool. But because we knew that the hat was there, it encouraged all of us, I think, to kind of not necessarily compete. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a competition. It's just like who can get the hat. And so, yeah, in the same vein of like with humor, yeah, you can have rewards for those kind of moments, and then that incentivizes people to keep bringing the funny. A lot more eccentric NPCs have had some good laughs, doing stuff that's bizarre in the moment, but later it makes sense. Oh, yeah, that's true, too. You can always tie in those big absurdity, tiny details moments to the plot. So it's more than just the gnome bard that's carrying a horse through town. You know, you find out later that he's like working for the BBEG or something. I did, in fact, hear that, Pirate. I listened to it. I will be honest, I need to go listen to it through again for the full. So nobody listening really has context unless you're in chat. Pirate just asked if I had seen that Dudesy brought George Carlin, quote unquote, back to life via his AI stand-up comedy special. So Dudesy's a podcast I listen to, hosted by writer Chad Kulchin and professional actor Will Sasso, and Dudesy, which is an AI that runs the podcast. And earlier last year, I think back in like April, they did a Tom Brady. Dudesy made a Tom Brady AI generated stand-up comedy special, and Tom Brady's people got upset. And then me and Song wrote a Football Baby, which is like a Tom Brady diss track, and then earlier this week, actually, Tuesday, Dudesy came out with a new episode, and they've done the same with George Carlin. So there's an hour-long AI-generated George Carlin stand-up special. It's really interesting. Are they pissed? I wonder about what they're going to say. The Carlin estate, the Carlin family, and more importantly, I guess anybody that's like owns his IP. So it's going to be the future of everything regardless. You know, I think that now we're seeing it because it's happening in these moments of just like, oh, it happened here, it happened there. Oh, look, they're doing it over there. But in 18 months' time, you're not going to be able to keep up with it. There's just going to be every famous character that ever existed is going to be streaming 24/7, and you'll be able to tune in. And I just don't know that they'll be able to pin it down any more than they're able to pin down anything else on the internet, you know? I think it's a question of, like, the law and stuff. But, yes, I think it's interesting stuff. And I think that we'll remember this as a window in time, looking back as like, whoa, man, remember when it was such a big deal? Digital rights were part of the reason for the recent actor strike too. Yeah, I know, and I know that they signed off and gave them what they wanted, but it's only through like 25 or 26. At which point, I'm sure that they'll renegotiate. Carlin's daughter is really cool. I don't know if she specifically would be upset, and I got to be honest, as a lifelong Carlin fan, I don't know if he would be too upset. So I don't think that he would really give a shit. You know what he would probably say? Well, I'm dead. He would probably be like, well, I'm dead. I can't do it. So, surely at this point, it's writing his credit and tarnishing his reputation. Well, no, it certainly openly states that it's AI. I mean, it's not as if like they're saying that it's him. It's very clear that it's AI. Yeah, I don't think that he would be upset. What would he be mad about? He's not alive. Now, if you did it while he was alive, he would probably be pissed. But like, he was forever pragmatic, I think. He was a very logical guy. Like, what difference does it make? It's not him. It's clear that it's not him. Nobody thinks it's him, by the way. I didn't listen to it and think, oh my gosh, it's really him back from the dead. So I think it's kind of a non-issue in that sense. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the law says. We'll see if there's a case brought, and then, you know, what they decide in court. All right, moving on to the other questions. Hopefully that gives you some answers, Farah, about what's funny and some funny stuff to do. Definitely stick with like puns and the names and stuff. Can't go wrong there. I'm looking at Studebaker Peppercorn. All right, the next question is from Derek. And Derek asks, in the 90s, after visiting the VR gaming arcade in the West Pier Mall in Chicago, I envisioned a VR RPG center. You could pay to play or DM, with center employees helping build out assets and acting as NPCs and or DMs. Some of my favorite ideas for it include different language overlays in the headset audio, real physical props when possible, and gesture-based spellcasting. The internet and VR technology has come so much further than expected since then, so an online VR RPG environment is now totally possible. But I really love the idea of in-person sessions in a big arena, spelled arena wrong, style room with wireless VR headsets. Just want to get your thoughts on where that might go and open it up to chat for desired features of such a place or online system. Happy New Year. Best to you and yours. Thank you very much for the question. Derek, I think that this is a cool idea. I have thought about this stuff before myself. And also, I've dabbled in the thought, and I wonder if this might be the direction that D&D and / like TTRPG gaming and stuff is going anyway, right? So I wonder about this stuff with like Wizards, actually, and with Hasbro, and them like axing all these people, and it's like, whoa, well, where's the future of this game going? Because I know the last real updates that we had on like D&D 1 or 1D&D or whatever it is, it's supposed to come out this year, right? So it's supposed to kind of like accomplish what Roll20's been doing for years, which is being able to have like a centralized online location where you can play. And so I think that things are going that way anyway. As far as having it in like an actual like physical location, sounds like LARP with extra steps. Well, not necessarily, right? Because like I think that there already exists a real market for, and there are already places where you can go and do like real life VR, which sounds counterintuitive, right? But essentially like they have these rooms that are built for you to kind of go in and VR LARP in a warehouse, like a paintball game setup. Yeah. There are these places that already exist like that, where it's just like a warehouse-sized area, and such that you can kind of walk around and do your VR thing. Now, my mind goes to liability, because it's like, you're just going to have people running around in headsets. They can't really see where they are. But assuming that all of that were handled in like a safe and way, you know, I don't know like how it works and how you set it up. I'm starting to become an old man, so I don't know how any of it works. But I would say that I think that we're headed that direction, And I think it would be cool as hell to be able to I think that what would be cool is if it were an expansion of existing game stores, right? So that'd be a cool way to do it, is if you had just like a D&D store and then like a warehouse in the back where it was like VR LARPing. And it's not LARPing in the strictest sense because there's the VR component of having having things look different, including yourself and the world around you. But I don't know, it depends. I think that there will definitely be people that want to kind of have a hybrid of the two. Because I'm the type of person that, like, if it can be as interactive as if I'm there as if I'm not going. If I can stay home and equally enjoy myself, not doing the thing. But then there are other people that are like, well, no, I want to go to the place and do the thing. So a controlled environment would be easy to map out in a closed system, and even current gen headsets are pretty good at collision detection. Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I think it's a really cool idea. I think that there's a market for it if there's not already stuff that's like it out there. So, yeah, I think that we might see that become the future of D&D, if not in this iteration and the next one, as to encouraging people to play on VR. But I don't know if any of these big corporations are going to do something like that. So that might be something that's more of like a local thing. Maybe that's just the future of FLGSs and what they'll look like. Had an idea for a game that used augmented reality and VR for an arena fighter. That's cool. I used to work with a guy who was working on an AR or working on a VR game. Support your FLGS. Yeah, no doubt, while we're at it. Doesn't matter to me when the new stuff comes out. I don't need anything to play D&D but some dice and people. Yeah, and that's true too. You're always going to have people that are just like, nah, I just want to. I think it's a really cool idea, man. I've had ideas myself about like maybe like what a store would look like around my local area, as to like a gaming / coffee / lounge type deal where like you can kind of come in and chill, kind of similar to like Darby's Dungeon over on Beach. Just kind of like a chill hang, where you come get some coffee or a Coke, or like come play some D&D TTRPG stuff. ChatGPT is probably actually the next leap in TTRPGs. Well, yeah, I mean, it's probably already being implemented. We know that Wizards is using it. I think we're getting closer to the other way around. The goggles being transparent, but virtual images and fed through the lens to virtual objects. Yeah, AR, I don't know. I think that'll be the thing. That'll be like we'll see whether AR or VR wins out. I will say, when it comes to LARPing, probably do better with AR. If you were looking to like convert LARP people into more of that kind of technological world, you'd be better set. I think you'd be better poised to do it with AR than with VR. What's the Oasis? I don't even have a VR headset. I really should get one. I think I do have one that's an older one, but I need like an Oculus or something, like one of the official ones, so that I can really see what's going on. I have spent a lot of time in and played a lot with like VR chat, and I've dabbled in the idea of like what RPGs or D&D stuff would look like in that. Oh, thank you, Kathy. We think you rule too. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a great idea. I think I'd be down. I'd do something like that at least once. Could definitely do a shop like that in your area. Doesn't really have a spot like that. Yeah, I hear ya. Most definitely. Spell effect overlays and environmental stuff. Yeah, for AR. Well, cool. Yeah, I think that's cool stuff. It's definitely food for thought, something to think about. And I encourage you to develop it if you're looking into it, because, people will be looking for stuff like that. All right. We've got 2 more questions, and then we'll do a little chat. The next question is from another Chris. See, we got 2 Chris questions tonight. All right. This question is from Chris, and Chris asks, hey, Chaz, another Chris question here. What would happen if a player who is currently invisible casts knock? How, as a DM, do I run this? Would the sound cancel out the advantage from being invisible? What do you in chat think? Thank you again for everything you guys do, and the new album is fire. Thank you very much, Chris. It's in reference to my newest and third album, Organized Lightning. If you haven't seen that, my new album, Organized Lightning, is available now everywhere you listen to music, so go check it out. Thank you for the question, Chris. So, here's the deal with knock. It seems pretty straightforward to me. So first of all, invisibility is a concentration spell, right? So, I don't know, spellcasters, tell me, if you have a concentration spell, can you not cast anything else without breaking concentration, or can you not, or can you not cast other concentration spells? So, you don't think it would cancel it out? Okay, so it must be that you can cast other spells so long as they're not another concentration spell. So if that's the case, if I've cast invisibility on myself, it's a concentration spell, I can cast knock. However, knock has a verbal component to it, for one. So, and as far as I can tell, it only has a verbal component. So, invisible from item or scroll or potion. Oh, that's a good point too. If they've cast invisibility on themselves and they want to cast knock, they're going to have to say it requires a verbal component. So they're going to have to say something, which, you know, I mean, you could agree with them that it would be whispered, but there's still going to be sound from them casting the spell. And even in some world where there were no sound from them casting the spell, there's going to be a sound with the knock, which may or may not disrupt the player's ability to remain undetected. So for me, I would say, oh, wait a second, hold on. It said today Beans got it. Casting while invisible breaks invisibility. If you cast another concentration spell, it breaks concentration on the first spell. Right, okay, true. But yes, knock is not a concentration spell. Can cast any spells while invisible, but then you become visible. Oh, okay. So casting anything when you are invisible breaks the invisibility spell, I guess, unless it's otherwise noted. So, I mean, I guess that answers it either way. If you were doing it in such a way where you had some sort of a house rule where you were saying, like, look, knock yourself out, go ahead and cast knock. Still got to deal with those other issues I mentioned, right? There's still a verbal component to casting knock. So even if you're invisible, you're still making sound. And then there's sound from the knock itself. So at a minimum, they don't get advantage. They probably should get disadvantage, and or they shouldn't be permitted to do it in the first place. With the verbal, it would reveal location. You can target, albeit with disadvantage because invisibility. Oh, okay. So it can be targeted, but you would just do it with disadvantage. Okay, cool. Unless you get the silent casting feat or meta magic. Well, maybe they have one of the two of those. But yeah, so for me, you don't even you're rolling flat for me, and you're probably not even able to do it. The way that I would probably do it is, if it was that like important too, because rule of cool matters. Like if it was that much of a thing where it was like this needs to be done this way, I'd still probably roll NPCs' perceptions checks against hearing them cast it, or at least hearing the spell itself. Enemy can roll with disadvantage to see if they hear the sound, see where it originated from. Yeah, that too, because there's more that goes into this than, there's more consideration that goes into this than just this player's roles and ability. You're also considering like who's around to hear it in the first place. Probably somebody. There would have to be a threat of being heard, or they wouldn't be invisible in the first place. Well, if they don't hear you, did you even knock? That's a good point. I was just going to suggest the silent casting and meta magic feats, but I don't know those feats cross over from 5e to 3.5. Yeah, what edition are we in too? That matters. I was just assuming 5. Huh. I don't know. More like a wild surge wizard, or if the invis is cast at a higher level slot to be undroppable from another action or spell. You can attack and cast a spell. You lose invisibility regardless who casts invisibility. Okay. So, it's starting to sound like if you want to go raw, if you want to go rules as written, then unless they have silent casting or meta magic, they can't cast a spell while invisible without breaking invisibility in the first place. If you allow them to cast the spell and remain invisible, not giving them advantage on any checks to stay hidden. And while I'm at it, I might even give somebody listening advantage. I don't know. It's all very helpful. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, this is just one of those things where it's like you don't know until you know. It's one of those things you don't deal with until you have to. So it's like, who would ever even think of that? But it's like, well, this person. So yeah, I mean, I think that you just use your judgment on how you want to handle it. But those are kind of the rules and my opinions. And as you can see, what people in chat are saying seems to be just like, no, don't do it because once you cast, you're not invis anymore. But doesn't matter what you use. It's the action taken that causes the loss of invis. I see. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for the question, Chris. And I'm glad that that gave you a bit of an answer. Moving on to our last question, which will lead us into a chat just about things in general. This last question this evening is from Paul. And Paul asks, what happened to the Jaguars? As a Cowboys fan, I don't care much about the AFC, but as a Man Shorts fan, a part of me always roots for the Jags. Oh, that's kind of you. I was hopeful for y'all at the start of the year, so was I. What do you think happened, and what are your thoughts for next season? Also, thank you for occasionally talking about sports. You're not alone on the sports/fantasy crossover. Well, thank you, Paul. That actually means a lot because sometimes I do feel like I can drone on too much about sports and no one really cares and it's like a sports ball attitude. But there are people in here that are sports fans. Trevor Lawrence happened. Let me tell you. Don't even get me riled up, pirate. Okay, so this is what happened from my perspective, right? Because that's my word this year. I think we have a great team on paper. I think that we were rolling right along through the season. In the Cincinnati game, Trevor got hurt. He got a high ankle sprain. Every game after that was a disaster. Now, I would have sat him. As soon as he hurt as soon as that high ankle sprain happened, you're not playing for the rest of the regular season. Sorry. We can't afford to have this guy who's supposed to be our guy have some sort of a long-term injury that's going to keep him out of the next decade. So I'm always a better safe than sorry type guy. After that high ankle sprain, you're sitting for the season. We'll send Beathard out there, see if he can get us to the promised land of the playoffs. And by the way, he might have. And then you just rest up for the playoffs. So that's number one. That's where things started going wrong, was that Cincy game when he got hurt and didn't really take the time that he needed, in my opinion, to get himself fixed. So here's what I did too, because my initial thought was that, and my thought still is that, but I think that there's more to it than that. So this is a little depressing for me, but I had the worry and the concern that Trevor Lawrence might be Blake Bortles with long hair. It's possible. Now, I will say that I think that I think that Trevor has a much higher ceiling, right? Clearly, he's had more accomplishments in his career. And I think that clearly, just on a quick look, Trevor's clearly better overall, right? But the trouble with that is that I started looking at some of their stats, and I gotta tell you, they're not all that different. On the top here, I've put on the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, those are the first 3 years up above of Blake Bortles from 14, 15, and 16. And then these are Trevor's first 3 years in 21, 22, and 23. And their numbers are not crazy different. Like, Trevor throws a little bit more accurately. Well, to be fair, a good amount more accurately, especially in these last 2 years. But, the attempts per game are about the same. Trevor throws for a bit more yards, but the average is about the same. Maybe Trevor's got an edge there. Yards is about the same. Touchdowns about the same. And then when you get down towards the end, you realize that, for one, I think Blake was getting sacked a lot more. But for two, Trevor also loses more fumbles than Blake overall. And so while I think that it's evident that Trevor is better than Blake Bortles, I don't know how much better he is. And if he's not much, much better, then what are we doing? The same thing that we were doing 6 years ago, I guess. Clemson, he reminded me of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Can't stand Tampa Bay. Oh, well, the Pirates Tampa Bay fan. Tampa Bay might make a run, actually. I wouldn't be shocked if Tampa Bay beat Philly, by the way. That would not shock me. Very annoying when the second-string QB carries the team to the playoffs, then gets sidelined when they deserve to keep playing. Yeah, that's tough. That does happen. So, all the way to the Super Bowl, you think so? I don't know about that. I think that in terms of like who I think is going to win, I think that it's the Ravens to lose this year, for sure. I think that Lamar is undeniably the MVP of the league, and, barring them doing something crazy or throwing it away, I think it's theirs to lose. And I think that the 49ers, too, are probably pretty hungry for it. But you never know, man. Any given Sunday/Saturday, you never know. It could be the Bucks could be in there. The Cowboys could be in there. The Dolphins, I don't know about the Dolphins, but the Bills could be in there. So it's kind of anybody's game. And I will be honest, I will say that overall, I'm kind of happy that we didn't go into the playoffs. Just because, I knew that we would go out in the first round. It would probably be pretty embarrassing. And honestly, that team didn't deserve to go to the playoffs. I'm pretty upset, by the way, that they immediately fired the defensive coordinator, and not Press Taylor. I don't know why they don't fire Press Taylor. I mean, I know why they don't fire Press Taylor, because it's Doug Peterson's guy or whatever. But, dude, he's got to go. And unless we make some major, major changes to the offensive line, because something to keep in mind, to Trevor's credit, I know that I just kind of made him Blake Bortles earlier, but to Trevor's credit, the O-line sucks. I mean, he has one of the lowest times to throw in the league at 2 seconds. So, can't put too much out on him. But, oh, and I did see that about the Peacock thing. That's so stupid. I don't know why they're doing that. It's when I was a kid, why don't they just stream it on regular cable channels? I don't know. I don't know what that obsession is about. It's just hey, I know what let's do. It's our numbers on television are down, so let's charge people on an app that people don't even like or use already. Meanwhile, I think, also, if anybody hasn't noticed, we are in the midst of chat. I also think that, we're just reinventing cable. I think a lot of these streaming services are going to start, merging together and, putting all of their content together, and it's just going to go back to being how TV used to be. So, your wife's a Colts fan, so no football until Labor Day for now. Yeah. Well, and I'm worried about them, too, in the future with Anthony Richardson. And then, of course, C.J. Stroud from Houston's a problem. So, working on a remix of The Big Bad. Oh, nice. Awesome. Appreciate that. I'd be interested to hear it. They're doing it because Peacock's desperate for cash because nobody cares about it. Yeah, for sure. Oh, and yeah, I did see that about Prime putting ads back in. That's so wild. But, that's the reinventing cable. Because it's you used to have to pay for TV, and then there were ads on stuff. So then for a while, I think we've kind of gotten spoiled. Certainly my generation has, with no ads. Because I was watching something recently. Oh, the national championship game, the football game. which, Michigan. I wanted Washington to win that. But anyway, we were watching it, and the ads were on it, and I was like, man. For one, you don't realize like just how obnoxious they are when you go for a long time without watching them. Because like I've had stuff like YouTube Red and Hulu no ads for like a long time, so I've just kind of gotten used to not seeing them because I don't really watch like traditional television. And so whenever I'm watching something on like a more traditional medium or network, and then I see the ads, it's just like, oh my God, is this like, dude, if I'm in like, well, the Man Shorts channel doesn't have like YouTube Red, right? Or whatever it's called now, YouTube Premium or whatever. And so like, I know immediately because it's like, oh, there's ads. There's so many ads. And I don't like to put them on my content. That's why I say that I want to put them in manually, but then YouTube runs them anyway. You can bundle Disney, Hulu, and ESPN. Yeah, I do that, actually. Twisted Metal. How is Twisted Metal, by the way? I never watched that show. I also started, like I was talking earlier about that show, The Trust, on Netflix, I think. That's interesting. All these people. I guess they like go to an island, and it's like, you guys are going to get money, but then they like can vote each other off. And so it's like, as you would expect, they start voting each other off immediately. Twisted Metal's awesome. Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to check it out. Streaming will likely solidify into a number of small companies because no one can keep up with all of them. Yeah, for sure. Well, people can't afford all that stuff, man. Even like I consider myself to be relatively comfortable. And like in the last year or so, I've had to cut a couple of them off because it just gets so stupid. It's like, okay. It's like Apple's got one, and NBC's got one, and Paramount's got one, and you've got Hulu and Netflix, and it's just too much. I'm already paying for YouTube, and so yeah. Recently, YouTube just started targeting with those ad blockers again. It's frustrating just in the sense of like you would think that YouTube would have figured out a better business model by now than just relying on these ads. It's like, come on, guys. It's been 20 years. Like you haven't figured out a more effective way than just like pumping to. You just recreated television. That's it. You have Paramount Plus that bought out CBS and is now merging with Showtime. Whoa, really? I have Paramount Plus too. They're merging with Showtime? Interesting. I will say the one good thing about like Paramount Plus is that because they own CBS, football games. So I usually am able to watch the football games on there, at least the Jags games and stuff. All right. Well, yes. Thank you very much for stopping by, Nate. I hope you have a good evening. UBO is the best thing to happen for the internet in ages. I want to watch Twisted Metal because I saw a trailer and Samoa Joe looked good as Sweet Tooth. Yeah, I've heard good things actually about it, but I've just never gotten around to watching it. So, tried to stop ad blockers. It hasn't worked out for them. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that like there was like a particular one or a particular group of ad blockers that like YouTube had successfully circumnavigated, but then that company like updated their software and got like circumnavigated YouTube. So I don't know. It just seems like they're constantly at war. And it's like, man, I wonder if you guys put the amount of money that you put into trying to circumnavigate ad blockers into, I don't know, any kind of other creative development or like piece of the business, then maybe you wouldn't have to circumnavigate the ad blockers. Be getting a free trial of Prime just to binge the Fallout show. When is that coming out, by the way? Charlie Roger and Sailing the Seven Seas. 24 to 48 hours and I got around it. Yeah, that's good. Glad to hear about that. Oh, and I'm excited for more One Piece. Live action One Piece was awesome. And it'll be a while, I'm sure, off before we get more. But also heard that that Echo, I saw that Echo show's on now. D'Onofrio's always great. You have one that works on YouTube, but every once in a while it stops and gives an error. Yeah, that stuff, you know, it's like a virus. It's just constantly evolving and changing. It's just like, oh, wait a minute, we can't get in? All right, well, looks like we have to figure out how to get in. Oh, man. All right, well, here we are again at the end. I can't believe... Yeah, where is Twisted Metal? Is Twisted Metal Peacock? Or is it Apple? Who knows? It's probably its own thing. here we are already at the end. Can't believe it. These things keep going by quickly. Oh, man. Also, in case anybody wasn't aware, just wanted to let everybody know, we're not going to be, I did post post about it in the community tab because we didn't have an episode last week. We do have an episode on this Sunday. It's coming up on Sunday, but then for the next 2, we won't. So for the 21st and the 28th, we won't have new episodes. Although I am going to start looking into potentially streaming on those days, notably like Baldur's Gate 3. I want to do a stream from the very beginning. And curious to know what other games you people might like to see us play. Or mostly me, I'll be honest. Like mostly I think with the streaming it's going to be me, and then others will join when and if they can when it comes to stuff like Baldur's Gate 3 or other stuff. But so yeah, we could talk about it maybe more in the Discord, or we can talk about it at another time. But I'm glad that you've enjoyed them. I've enjoyed making them with the Baldur's Gate 3 stuff. So hopefully the goal is to make those bigger, better, and more often. So, all right. Well, here we are at the end. Let's go through some of the housekeeping stuff that we like to at the end before we get out of here. Remind everybody of the email, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. Please send any questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques, all of that stuff to bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want merch, you can get it at manshorts.com. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzik. This show will return next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, streaming live on the Man Shorts YouTube channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The audio for this podcast will be made available tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all of you showing up every week. It makes all the difference. I hope that you have a fantastic weekend and week, and we will see you next time.